mistaken, and you don't see anything around it. It's just kind of hovering in the air. There's not much in the way of clouds to the above it or below it or to either side, but it just looks like it's sitting there, right there. See that cloud? It's just sitting still. Look at all the clouds around it, above it and to the sides of it. They're all moving along, but this particular cloud is sitting still. So again, I ask the question, what is it that causes a cloud that just sits there?
You guys see that shadow? Where are the clouds? Where are the clouds?
So I'm driving down the highway and I see this huge shadow and there's no cloud in the sky. So I had to stop and make this video. Right, so that's a huge shadow, but there is not even one cloud in the sky. Who wants to explain this to me?
So this right here, this guy's looking out with a flashlight in his yard. It almost looks like powdery snow, just floating around. Very odd. And this is in Florida, right there. You can see the timestamp and everything. 6:30 a.m. and just weird as all get out.
40 states have reported seeing this fog, and here you can see it kind of looks a little bit more like normal fog. That's because it's being lit by the light in the sky. But when it's darker and you use a flashlight, then you can see it's little particles that are floating around. It doesn't usually come at night, but only in the early hours of the morning, like from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. And people are saying it's happened in cities where they've seen the drones flying around, and they're kind of concerned that it has something to do with it. But I think the thing that's concerning most people is the fact that it has a very distinct and weird smell, sort of like chemicals. Dense fog is one thing, but when they introduce a new smell, that raises reason for concern. But it's this video right here that I find the most frightening because those particles do not look normal to me. But what do you guys think, and have you seen any fog in your town?
And no, that does not look like, I grew up in a canyon right next to a river, so I've seen all types of fog. I've seen light snow where the air is just, the moisture particles are freezing in the air. It's light and fluffy. That there definitely looks very airy, almost like styrofoam.
States that were in the comments that are saying that they have fog and symptoms that are accompanied. And then I will go through the symptoms. So the states that so far that I have seen commenting the most are Oregon, Minnesota, Texas, St. Louis, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Vermont, New Hampshire, Washington, Arizona, Idaho, Illinois, Maine, Georgia, Massachusetts, Louisiana, Wisconsin. The UK has actually been commenting Kansas, England, Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Mississippi, Arkansas, Cali, North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, Colorado, Utah, Nebraska, and there was more than a born and raised Oregonian. I'm used to seeing fog. I'm not used to seeing fog for months on end with like an hour break during the day, and that's it. I've been having to double up on my vitamin D, so this is not normal fog. Problems, stomach aches, diarrhea, nausea. I had some people commenting that they have jaw pain or headaches or both. There's just so many symptoms that are coming along, and the only thing that we all have in common from coast to coast is the fog. And then obviously a lot of us tap water, but that isn't necessarily going to be the same in every state. So the only thing I can associate all of this with is the fog.
So after receiving that message, I always pray to the Lord that the Lord will rebuke whatever they're planning to do. But unfortunately, this has started and people are getting sick. Most people claim that many people are coughing, many people are just not feeling well because of the fog that is moving out. Most people can't even go out of their homes, and there have been a couple of plane crashes and a whole lot of calamities that is going on. What I said, I specifically said that when they begin to contaminate the air we breathe in, people are going to fall sick and they are going to bring out a harmful product. Now, this harmful product is actually going to cause memory loss. Okay, it's actually going to cause people to lose their memory, forget about everything, and it is going to have a detrimental effect on people. This is not a joke.
The mighty hand of God forced her to drink every drop from the cup. As she drank the bitter dregs, these were the words that I heard: "Should you be utterly unpunished?" Then as I watched, another amazing thing was taking place. Far to the northwest, just over Alaska, a huge black cloud was arising in the shape of a skull. It seemed that what I saw was the entire North American continent spread out like a map upon a table. With this terrible skeleton arising from behind the table, it seemed to bend towards the United States, stretching forth a hand towards the east and one towards the west. I knew its only interest was to destroy the multitudes. As I watched in horror, the great black cloud stopped just above the Great Lakes region and turned its face towards New York City. Then out of the horrible, great gaping mouth began to appear wisps of vapor. These wisps of vapor were being blown towards New York City and all the eastern parts of the United States. Then the skeleton turned towards the west, and out of the horrible mouth and nostrils came another great puff of white smoke. This time it was blown to the entire West Coast and Los Angeles area. Then towards the center of the nation came a third puff of smoke in St. Louis, in Kansas City, New Orleans, until it reached the Statue of Liberty, where she stood staggering drunkenly in the blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico.
Googling what an amoeba was, I knew it was some sort of bacteria or some kind of something. And they had this little glass box, and inside there they were creating an amoeba, a lab created amoeba that they released one, and they were making more. And when they released one, I saw people, I saw the sickness, and they were about to release the other one, and I said, no, do not release it. So I believe that's prayer that we have to pray against them releasing these amoebas, these lab-created sickness, these lab-created illnesses, because they are planning such a devastating outbreak for the masses.
2025, we're going to have a lot of depopulation. 2025, the world will reduce in number. We're going to be experiencing world depopulation. Could it be through war? I don't know. Could it be sickness? No, I don't know. What could it be? I don't know. So let's pray in 2025.
The statue was moaning and groaning. She was in mortal agony. I watched her in the gulf as she staggered, clenching her lungs and her breast with her hands. Then she fell to her knees in a moment. She gave one final cough and made a last desperate effort to rise from her knees, and then fell face forward into the waters of the gulf and lay still as death. Suddenly the silence was shattered by the screaming of sirens. The sirens seemed to scream, "Run for your lives." The sirens seemed to be everywhere, to the north, south, east, and to the west. And as I looked, I saw people everywhere running, but it seemed none of them ran more than a few paces, and they fell even as the Statue of Liberty fell, and finally falling to die on her face. I saw millions of people falling in the streets, dying in the sidewalks. I heard their horrible coughing, as their lungs had been burned with fire. I heard the moanings and groanings of the doomed and the dying, as I watched a few finally reached shelters.
That many great things were coming to those who were on fire for the Lord. Miracles and wonders were about to be shown, were about to be fulfilled for those who were walking with Christ, for those who were cleaning themselves from sin, for those who were trying to be as righteous as possible. And she was so excited for what was about to come for them, for those on fire for the Lord. And I felt it. I was with her. I was with her in that joy. But then she continued and she asked me, "What about the lukewarm Christians?" And I cramped my lips like so, and I just nodded no. And I looked down as I nodded no, and in a way to tell her they're not doing well, they didn't make it, something went wrong. I don't know exactly what the scenario was or what happened to the lukewarm Christians, but I knew that their faith failed. I knew that they were going through hardship. The coronavirus, it's baby play compared to what I saw that this new outbreak, this new pandemic was going to be. I mean, lives were really going to be lost significantly with this next pandemic. So as I came through an article and I was reading about all the sickness that everybody was having right now. And then I felt like the Lord told me, this is what is going to happen to lukewarm Christians. They are not going to be covered by the blood of Christ because they're not in prayer. They're not covering their family. They're not covering their children. And because they're not in prayer and they're not in warfare, spiritual warfare against every principality, against every action that the enemy has against us, they're not going to be covered. So the spirit of death, the spirit of sickness is just going to ravage them.
Pray about this. All right, so this is what God shared with me. Like I said, I was taking in a vision. I wasn't even praying about the thing of this subject. And I saw a vision, and I instantly heard, as I was taken into this vision, disease in America. I heard the Lord say, American disease, American disease, American disease, 3 times. I saw a vision of many people in like hospital masks walking around in every single state of America. There was no state that was not covered with these people in masks. As I was hovering over the land of America, I could see superimposed these people with masks on. Women, men, all different nationalities, all different colors. I saw them walking around. And as they were walking around with these masks on, I saw that they were falling to the ground dead. I saw locations they were falling dead, and it was grocery stores, business buildings, especially hospitals. As I was looking into these hospitals, the Lord showed me inside these hospitals, and I've shared this one time before, maybe about a year and a half ago. I saw doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. This disease, the reason why the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on, it was multiple. It wasn't just one thing. It's like it surfaced up 3 heads in the person's body, 3 different priorities. And the medication and the methods of doing it, they couldn't establish a conclusion, a cure, or an antidote.
Bird flu is getting a lot of attention right now, with some experts worried it could become a major public health risk.
Now the CDC also warns multiple viruses are surging. As Amy Kiley reports, the result could be a spike in related hospitalization.
The CDC is warning of surges in flu, RSV, norovirus, and COVID cases. It's now predicting respiratory virus hospitalizations could be as high as last year.
We have an important health alert to tell you about tonight. The CDC is seeing an uptick in a respiratory illness that is not COVID. It's parvovirus B19, also known as fifth disease.
A respiratory virus that has the potential to cause paralysis in children is making a concerning return across the US.
While not yet widespread, the rise in infections has caught the attention of health officials, raising fears of the threat, a rare polio-like illness.
We're coming off a COVID wave. Well, that's what health experts are saying. And they say that's pretty common toward the end of the summer season. But when one dies down, another one takes its place. And IU doctors say they're now noticing a new respiratory trend that we should be aware of. One doctor we spoke to says 2/3 of his recent visits have involved upper respiratory infections that were both non-flu and non-COVID. He says that includes cases of bacterial pneumonia, which is when a bacteria is literally growing in the tissue within the lung territory.
The reason why the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on, it was multiple. It wasn't just one thing. It's like it surfaced up 3 heads in the person's body, 3 different priorities, and the medication and the methods of doing it, they couldn't establish a conclusion, a cure, or an antidote. And I saw the doctors scratching their heads with no answer to respond. I saw in these buildings, I saw saints of God, believers who believed man and that were dying in hospitals all over. I felt the sadness of God as he was watching, as I was watching, looking to where I needed to look. And I saw in these hospitals saints, believers of God dying because they believed man's lies. Okay? They were believing man's lies.
Doctors say the best way to keep yourself healthy is to be vaccinated.
Obviously encouraging people to consider the vaccines. There are effective vaccines for all 3, but obviously including flu. And while not foolproof, they definitely help prevent significant or severe disease and help prevent hospitalizations as well.
Yeah, I think vaccines definitely help to prevent kiddos from getting really sick, especially our kids with high medical complexity and common conditions such as asthma. Without the vaccine, with especially kiddos like that, they can get pretty sick and it lasts for pretty long. The symptoms linger for sure.
Whether it's the flu, RSV, or COVID, it's important to make sure you treat your symptoms and visit your provider in case you have an underlying condition.
Hey, my brothers and sisters. I have previously made a message trying to get it across to you guys, and it kept shutting down. This coming season, which will be 2025, the flu vaccination, they are going to put within it the COVID vaccination. And I feel that they're doing that because many of us refuse to do the COVID vaccination, but some of us will do the flu. So this is their way of sneaking it in. I had found this out by my brother, whom a physician he was speaking to had let it slip out. So this information is very important, and I probably can get this video across because I finally got the other one through. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and pray for discernment.
Die man einfach stellen muss, die man den Politikern stellt oder die man den Ärzten stellt, die Ärzte einem Konzern Pfizer stellen müsste. Warum sind da diese Rasierklingen drin? Und jetzt wollen sie die Kinder ab 5 Jahre zur Impfpflicht. Ich bin Aktivkohlespezialist. Ich habe zum weltgrößten Aktivkohlehersteller gegangen. Und ich war dann nach einem Jahr zuständig für New Carbon Product. Wir hatten neue Aktivkohleprodukte in unserem Portfolio. Wir hatten so eine kleine Firma in Houghton-Spring zwischen Newcastle und Durham in England gekauft. Und ich war europaweit zuständig für New Carbon Product. Wenn du das ins Blut spritzt, dann weißt du, dass du ein Mörder bist. Das ist ein neues Material, die Toxikologen haben das nicht auf dem Schirm. Das ist ein neues Material, die Toxikologen haben das nicht auf dem Schirm. Auf einmal macht es Sinn, dass diese Opfer so aussehen. Ja, und dass Spitzensportler mit einem hohen Blutstrom, die kerngesund sind, auf einmal tot umfallen. Und man sieht halt die Menschen, die direkt nach der Impfung noch so auf dem Impfstuhl, im Ruheraum, wenn die da kollabieren und da zu analysieren, zu obduzieren, die finden nichts. Weil die ganzen Toxikologen machen ihre Tests in Petrischalen. Ja, die kommen aber nicht drauf, dass es solche Strukturen gibt, die Blutgefäße zerschneiden. Du siehst Bilder, wo irgendwie das Blut irgendwie verstopft aus der Nase rausläuft. Die Menschen verbluten innerlich. Ich sag mal, gerade diese Spitzensportler, die tot umfallen, da fließt das Blut sehr schnell. Das heißt, je schneller das Blut fließt, desto stärker der Schaden dieser Rasierklinge.
Centers for Disease Control now looking into the death of Dr. Gregory Michael, who received the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine on December 18th. The 56-year-old got the vaccine at Mount Sinai Medical Center, where he ran a private practice as an OBGYN for the last 15 years. A Facebook post by Michael's wife describes him as very healthy. She says 3 days after getting the shot, he noticed severe broken blood vessels on his feet and hands, prompting him to go to the emergency room. Diagnosed with something called immune thrombocytopenia, which prevents blood from clotting. After 2 weeks of treatment, she writes, he got a hemorrhagic stroke caused by the lack of platelets that took his life in a matter of minutes.
I cried before God in this vision, and he replied to me. I was crying out the name of Jesus. As this vision was happening of this hospital, God shifted the scene, and I saw the land of America before me, and it was I was a man crying out for the land of America. And as I cried out for the land of America in this vision, the Lord responded, and he said, they didn't listen to my word and repent from their desires into mine. A church gash shall happen. This will lead to great humbleness and refreshing to my nature with them. Okay? I then heard God say, much pride and disobedience separated them to my name for too long. The Lord said, I gave time, sent prophets of my name. He then said, and my heart broke as he was speaking this, he said, this door will open. And he was silent after this.